everybody. Welcome to another exciting edition of Weddings Done Right Radio, the how-to for the I do. I am your host, Jody Harris, CEO of Fun out of Las Vegas, Nevada. And we're going to have a great show. Today's show is all about catering and finding a venue. Because let's face it, couples, you can't have a party without a venue, a place, a roof over your head. So I'm so excited to have in the studio with me today two amazing experts. They're going to talk to you a little bit about catering and selecting a venue. And they've been friends of mine for a really long time. And these girls are always busy. I mean, they are just like, I call them the wedding queens of Las Vegas. There you go.
Like that.
So from Maggiano's, we have Sabrina Cicali over here. So say
Hello,
hi.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much, Jody, for having us.
Oh, please. My pleasure. And tell everybody a little bit about you, Sabrina.
Oh, gosh, about me. Okay. Well, over at Maggiano's, I've been there now 5 years doing, I can't tell you how many weddings. We have a beautiful wedding venue, and it's all about the Italian food over there. Good food, a good place, bring in the fun DJs to do those amazing weddings. And I can't even tell you how many weddings we've done there.
Oh, yeah.
And it is a beautiful spot.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you.
And then awesome Carla De La Torre is sitting right next to me from Caesars Entertainment.
Hello, everybody.
Currently the Rio. She's over at the Rio right now.
That is correct. Yes.
Awesome. And tell everybody a little bit about you and what you do.
Yeah, great. I've been with the company for 8 years now.
Wow.
Moved here from Los Angeles. Love our city.
Oh, cool.
I have done numerous weddings.
Yes. We actually met at Flamingo where, gosh, that property is the Mecca. They do a lot of weddings there, too.
That's a very true statement.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
Because there were, 8 or 9 Caesars Entertainment properties? Do we have?
That is correct. 8.
8 properties. And some of them have wedding chapels.
Some have chapels. Some do the weddings actually in the meeting rooms.
Oh,
so
great.
Flamingo is the one, though, that has the biggest, largest.
Busiest.
Busiest.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I was maybe Caesar's Palace first.
Oh, cool. Well, very cool. So Carla is here because she brings that hotel experience to the panel tonight. So she's going to kind of talk. Things are done differently. Sabrina's the restaurant. So when you book your venue or you talk catering, there's a lot of commonality between the two of them because there are things like BEOs, and we'll talk about what that is, a banquet event order. And a lot of times they have the same rules, but they both bring to the table something different. So if you're thinking about having your wedding in a restaurant, Sabrina, we'll talk a little bit about a lot of that stuff. And if you're thinking about having it in a hotel ballroom, that's where Carla comes in, and she'll talk a little bit about that. But you're going to hear that a lot of the stuff that they talk about does cross over, and it's great information. And I'm so glad you guys are here. So we're going to get started. We're not going to waste any time because there's lots of information. Because this is it. Like I said, the party doesn't start. I always say the party doesn't start till I walk in.
That's true.
But the party doesn't start until they have your facilities because there is nothing
Until you're booked. Yep.
Until you're booked. So how soon should a couple book their venue? And I'll start with Carla first. How soon should they book a venue?
Right away. Definitely anywhere from 12 to 15 months out. Longer if you're coming from further than in the closest area within Las Vegas. Definitely if you're coming out of country. We've done quite a few weddings. I've had guests from Scotland and from other countries. So you have to consider everybody's travel time.
Yes.
And can they get off? So when it comes to travel, the further out, the better.
Obviously, yep. And Sabrina, same thing, how?
Yeah, so this question gets asked, almost per every conversation, how quickly should I book? And I always just encourage book as soon as you know.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to a date, if you're partial to the date, if this date means something to you, we run out of space, and, a restaurant, same as a hotel, but, we're a little bit more limited on space and what we have available. So once that room is gone, it's gone, and there's a lot of times where, while everybody and all the guests should do their due diligence on shopping around and really kind of checking out what's available, I think the biggest thing is, as soon as you know and you love that place, book it, because if not, it might go.
So it's one of the first things. It has to be. You can't do an invitation without
Correct.
a location.
And believe it or not, some guests do, and then they're disappointed when the space is no longer available. So,
is there, Carla, because you represent the hotel, so it's a little bit differently. Do you when you have a wedding reception in a hotel, can you book out a year in advance, depending on?
You can.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I know sometimes hotels have meetings and convention space.
So that you do compete with when there are larger groups, especially citywide groups, then you do compete with those favorite dates along with everybody else.
So it's best that you contact, if you're thinking about having a wedding at a hotel that does convention work, it's really, really important that you go out there right away.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
And definitely have alternative dates available.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's something that's so important, is really kind of, if you're more in love with the venue than you are with the date, have that flexibility, because if that date's not available, unfortunately, we might have to look at alternative dates. So, you really have to kind of outweigh, I think, what's more important. Is the venue that you're in love with more important, or is it the date that you're in love with that's more important?
Mm-hmm. Good advice. Now, how does a couple find a facility? Where do they start to find one? You think they know already in their head? Sabrina, you go first on this one.
I think social media is such a great, wonderful thing nowadays, both on the good and the bad. I think really kind of researching, and in this day and age, it's so easy to research so much. So me, myself as a consumer, I go ahead and I read the reviews, and and everybody's a critic, which is a hard thing to do. But if you're generally getting a wonderful vibe from it, I think that's such a good kind of way to go about it. The TripAdvisors, the Yelps of the world, I think all of those do us so much favors when it comes to really kind of seeing what's out there and what are the different options are, and how people are responding to these options and how they feel about them and their past experiences.
Mm-hmm. And Carla?
Correct, yes. And for those who aren't so savvy on the computer, referrals are really the best way. Those friends and family that have hosted events at your venue or restaurant, that's the best experience that anyone can communicate to you.
Absolutely. I agree.
Do you recommend, are there certain hashtags? The last show we had on, we talked a little bit about social media, and we talked about hashtags. Are there hashtags that pop into your mind, Carla, that maybe a couple should start researching? Does anything come in mind?
Definitely whatever the couple is most interested in, whether it be a pool type reception, researching those pools that are of their liking as opposed to friends or family, an outside venue, those that they want to look for a waterfall, for example. What is important to the couple?
Yeah.
And a lot of the venues, like, for example, Sabrina, I know at Maggiano's, that on social media, especially on Instagram, being a vendor, a partner with you all, both of you, I see a lot of times hashtags on social media do come up as Maggiano's Las Vegas weddings,
right?
Rio Las Vegas weddings, Flamingo Las Vegas weddings.
Yeah, and with the hashtags, I agree. Look up the hashtag venue weddings, or like you were saying, if it's a waterfall, hashtag waterfalls weddings, that type of thing. I don't know, if the hashtag right now is as strong as it will be in the future, but I think the more people use it, the better known it will be, and it's such a great tool when it comes to the hashtags.
You touched on reviews. What are your feelings on the whole? Well, I guess it's all positive, because I heard you speak positively of the reviews.
No,
I mean more like the wedding reviews. I mean, I know the Yelps and the TripAdvisors. I know brides or couples do go to those look there, but I think a lot of our clients do refer to the wedding,
right?
More of the wedding stuff.
Yeah, I think I'm still a big fan of reviews. What I tend to, or how I feel about them is really read quite a bit of them, because you're always going to get the one off that, maybe didn't like that you turned the lights up too much. And it could be something, I hate to use the word nitpicky, but maybe something that really kind of struck a chord with them that isn't really, too much. So I love using reviews, again, in my personal life as well, and really reading the majority of them, or reading a good handful of them, and seeing if most of them are great.
Legit.
Yeah, most of them are legit.
Right.
And I've even gone as far to, if there's a bad review, I'm going to read this person's other things that they reviewed, because maybe they're just...
Yep.
Negative.
Yes, negative people. Nothing can make them happy.
Exactly.
Type people.
Oh my
and
gosh.
Yeah.
And there are certain people in this world that you cannot make 100% happy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, listen, you could rock, or you could be at a wedding and you were there from start to finish and you knew that everything kicked butt.
Yeah.
And then you ask for the review, and out of 5 stars, you're thinking, oh, this is a 5-star. They give you a 4. And they say, I'll definitely hire these people again.
Right.
I'll definitely give them, but it's 4.
Yeah. And it's been something, at my particular venue where like, oh, we waited too long for valet. And I'm like, everything was amazing.
Valet.
Yeah. That's where we lost you. You know, and
same thing with you, right?
Correct. Just take it with a grain of salt. Generalize it, just as you said, Sabrina, and really form your own opinion on it. They're a great tool, but they shouldn't be your deciding factor.
Right. Yeah.
I agree.
I think that's such a well put way.
I think that's I think that's great advice. And great advice. What about the couples that come to you and they want to crash a wedding? They want to come to your venue. They want to see, because I know as a DJ, I get that a lot. Like, can we come and visit you at one of your parties? No.
Right.
You can't come and visit us. And you girls agree, right? I mean, you should not, you shouldn't be asking, and I'm going to turn it to a DJ for 1 second. You should not ask your DJ to go crash a wedding, because the catering people, they don't want to see you there.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's such a hard thing to, especially in our particular location, we have a lot of guests that when they are shopping us or when they are visiting us to kind of pick a venue, they're coming on their days off on their weekends. But they sometimes, I think, forget that we have weddings that we're doing on the weekends. And so respectfully, I would not do that to them, that I will not do that to our guest that's hosting their special celebration with us. So I'm with you, Jody, 100%. No. No.
And Carla, same thing?
Yes. Absolutely. I would say that sometimes they're going to see things that maybe could be very specific to that other couple, that other group, that may not work for them. And then it could give a different opinion of their idea of what they thought that venue was.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because every party that we all do, all of us, are designed specifically for that client.
That's correct.
So they might not like the chairs that client brought in.
Right.
Yes.
That's what that client wanted.
Correct.
Now, what about having them come? I've seen this happen before, come to a party before it starts, just so they can get an idea of what the room looks like. Do you guys encourage that? Could they do that, or?
Yes and no. Usually the time before doors open are the most crucial to us. Yeah. We're doing last minute changes, last minute fix. We want to make sure everything's perfect for those coming in. It's a hard thing to decide on.
I'm a little different. I do kind of encourage it, because while you're right, I do think, every wedding is very specific. I also like to let the guests know, here's a great opportunity to kind of see what a wedding would look like. And then I make it a point to point out, well, one, to keep it, fairly short, let me walk you through the space. Let's look at it. If you want to take some pictures, please do. And then let's step out somewhere else and talk about it. And while we're walking through the space, I'm really, pointing out what's unique to their wedding. They brought these centerpieces. They provided these centerpieces. They provided this and that, and really kind of pointing out what maybe not necessarily is included, or, what's specific to them. And that way they can just have ideas. And I think to see a venue at its finest, which is, a few minutes before the wedding opens or the doors open, I think is a really good representation of what we do and really kind of gets some ideas going. So I actually happen to be, but I also try to forewarn the guests to let's be very respectful of their time. Yes. And I'm sure, especially as a DJ, you're really kind of getting stuff in order and
we have
timing
no time to talk to anybody. Yeah,
so that's not the time to engage, but I think if you kind of give everybody a heads up, and I think the couples are really understanding when absolutely we just wanted to look around and off we go, and we can address any questions on Monday or something like that. And I think they're understanding of that.
So it's okay then to like set up an appointment, and Carla, in your situation, especially Carla, because she's got all these ballrooms and all this space. Do you tour? I mean, do you give tours to people that are interested in walking them through the space?
All the time. Painting that picture for them, really to give them that visual aspect. You can see as many photos as you can online, but until you're actually in that room, it's just a whole different story.
And with your situation having like a chapel, like for example, at the not at the Rio, at the Flamingo, we had a chapel that was kind of out by the pool, and then our ballrooms were in the building. So I'm sure they probably wanted to, that's probably very important, right?
Correct.
The distance wise?
Yes. How are people going to get from point A to point B? We don't want to lose them. There's a lot going on. There's a casino. So logistically as well. Yes.
Got it. Which brings me to a question. I want to go back to the whole touring thing, but it brings me to a really good question is a lot of times people don't know how soon they should start their reception. Like they're getting married at a chapel at 4:00 and then let's say the ceremony is over by 4:30. Does the reception start right away at 5:00? And I know there are going to be two different answers here. Yeah. So Carla, take it first.
Definitely immediately following.
If you're having it at a hotel.
Correct.
Where otherwise the chapel is on property.
Yep. Otherwise, you're just going to lose them. Right. There's too many things for them to do and see in Las Vegas. You want to do it immediately following.
Plus, they're also waiting outside the door.
Yes.
And which makes it kind of look bad. Like, they're not ready yet.
Right.
So they don't. You got to really clearly tell your guests.
Correct. You only have so many minutes between the ceremony and then walking your group up to a reception hall, in this case, before you could potentially lose them. And you really want to keep the group together. And then otherwise you will miss out on a grand entrance or those type of really important moments.
Sure, absolutely. I had this conversation with a groom today, and I was telling Sabrina that he's getting married at 4:00, but he's having a reception at 7. So
too much time in between.
Way too much time. And then he was kind of negotiating, well, if we opened, you guys are going to be setting up at 6:30. So why can't you just play background music as you're setting up for us? And I'm like, wait, no. Like it's
you wouldn't want everybody seeing that.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just kind of, Sabrina, same question. What should the gap be?
I'm the same way. I like it to start immediately to follow, but with a restaurant or somewhere being off property, you want to give yourself at least a little bit of travel time and really not eat into your package or your timing, including that in the travel time. So we really want to make sure that you're asking those questions on the distance and really kind of thinking it through once you're starting to put it together in the planning process of, okay, logistically, how long will it take us to get from point A to point B? And really timing that correctly. And I agree with Kara so much. You will lose people with too much time. I mean, it could be a drinking. And I think, no matter what city or what state you're in, if there's too much time, you're around people that you sometimes haven't seen in a long time, some family. So this is a big celebration. And people, if you give them time, they're going to head to the bar. They're going to go do something. They're going to get in a little bit of trouble. And like you like you said, possibly miss the grand entrance.
Oh, we've had that happen.
Yeah.
We've all
or maybe
had that.
These fabulous appetizers that you've planned for a cocktail hour that you've spent good money on,
cocktail
and
hour.
nobody makes it, and and then you end up getting a little bit disappointed. Where's everybody at? Where did they go? Yeah. So I feel the same way immediately to follow, but considering the time distance between A and B.
Sure, we've had. I remember one time we did a wedding at Caesar's Palace, and we had a father because we had that gap who went downstairs and he played a machine. Well, guess what? Dad won like 10 grand. And guess what? He had to sit there and wait to be paid out.
Right.
So everything ran late. Everything ran late because he just said, let me just drop in a few bucks on my way up to the reception hall.
And to touch...
hey, no, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. And to touch back, when you do have a lot of time, like you were saying, guests start to arrive. The doors are still closed because, maybe the guests, they don't know how long it takes to get there sometimes. So they start to arrive a little bit early. Mm-hmm. They're like, what time is this door opening? Well, if you're still setting up, we really, as professionals, trust us. You don't want your guest in there until it's time to be, go and ready to rock because... pouring water, all this, it's the little details that really make your venue a great space that you don't want them to see.
It should be a wow moment.
Exactly.
I think when those doors, especially, both of your facilities are so nice, it should be a wow moment.
Right.
Some brides actually, and couples, I say brides, some couples actually invest in having something in the room to wow them when the doors open.
Yes.
How many times have we seen, and again, we're speaking Vegas-wise, but this can go for anything. Right. You can have a magician, you could have a caricature artist,
Yes.
A celebrity impersonator. We deal with that frequently. A showgirl during cocktail hour, just to take photos.
Painter.
Yeah, painter, exactly. So you want that wow moment. You want to work with your caterer, work with your facility to create that wow moment.
Yeah,
and you
absolutely.
need to plan it accordingly. Is this a good question to ask a facility? How many weddings do you do in a year?
I don't know. It's kind of irrelevant, when it comes to...
I think you'd want a facility that does specializes in weddings.
Right.
That's experienced in a wedding.
Right.
What about on the, how many weddings do you get this? How many weddings are you going to do on the day of my wedding?
Yes, all the time.
No, no, not really.
Your facility's a little smaller.
It's a little smaller, yeah. So I don't think people really kind of read that much into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you especially.
Definitely. They want to know who else is going to consume my time, really, or do they have all of my attention for that evening?
Right. Mm-hmm. And I used to get that question quite a bit when I was in the wedding chapel side of it all.
Right.
And yes, it is important for them to know. However, really trust and believe in your professionals. And I think if you've done your due diligence on kind of really seeing who you're booking and making sure that they are a professional place, it really, I hate to say it, but it really doesn't matter because we're going to treat you as it's your special day, no matter what, 100% of the time. You are our couple in that moment, regardless if there was someone before or after you. Mm-hmm. So I think, that comes with a little bit of doing your research, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. What is the perfect block of time for a wedding reception? How long should a wedding reception last?
I would say anywhere between 2 and 3 hours.
Really?
Yes.
Now, are you talking here
in Las Vegas?
No, I'm talking about dinner. I'm talking about cocktail hour, dinner.
3 hours is the sweet spot, in my opinion.
Okay.
I'm going to go with 4 hours. I think 4 hours is perfect. You get cocktail hour, dinner, dancing, all the kind of good and fun stuff. And that really, still your guests are really engaged and all that stuff. So I think for me, it's the 4 hours.
Do your answers reflect that the fact that you guys are based out of Las Vegas? Or would you feel the same way if you were catering managers and you're from the East Coast, right?
West Coast.
I always think you're from Jersey. I always think you're from Jersey.
No,
who's from Jersey?
Vegas born.
Yes.
I'm from Jersey.
You're from Jersey.
Thank you. I'm actually from New York, but it's the same thing. But, I mean, are you saying that because you're Vegas people and you have all this experience in Vegas? Or would you feel that way if you were a wedding catering executive in Jersey or New York?
I think in Las Vegas, correct. The shorter time, because we have so much more to offer in such a small space, really, in the stretch of woods. And then outside of Las Vegas, I think it would be a longer reception. They don't have as much competition to go to another venue.
We had a wedding. Was it October? Might have been October, November. We had a wedding at a hotel. And it was it 9 hours reception?
Wow. Oh, boy.
9 hours reception. They were from Canada. And this is something that I wanted to talk to you because we talked about this off record, like off before we went on the air. A lot of people are under the impression that, they just want to keep extending. And Carla, you hit the nail right on the head. We're Vegas. There's so much to do.
Right.
We talked about this. Yeah. Like, you don't want to sit in Maggiano's for 6 hours.
No,
I love Maggiano's. You want to go out and experience
Exactly.
Vegas.
You want to experience Las Vegas.
Right.
I think people are under why is it that why do people just think, well, I guess it's because I think they're from their little small cities that, a wedding has to be 6 hours or 8 hours. And then they get mad because you won't stay. There's obviously expenses to keep the lights on in a ballroom. You and I were talking kind of
labor,
kind of touch base on that a little bit so the couples understand. Like, there's
correct. We schedule our staff accordingly to the contract. So if you have a 6 hour contract, do we see it that often? Not really. We would schedule according to that. If you were to have a reception for a couple of hours, maybe 3-4 hours, and then decided to extend, you're looking at paying a lot more than when you originally might have booked out. So those are factors that you should definitely consider, is the labor and the amount of overtime that you could incur.
Did you want to chime in, or are you good?
No, same thing. I mean, there's just so many, and I think that's an important thing that we probably don't do well enough, but at the same time, I think it's because a guest doesn't want to necessarily be bored with the details, or it's not that it's not important, but they don't really need to see the back end of it.
Sure.
But the reality is there is some labor costs. There are, a sequence of things that happen if we keep some staff there. Labor, managers need to stay there. Labor, later security needs to be well aware of it. So it's a huge trickle down factor when we're talking later and later and later and later.
And I would imagine in the restaurant world, things outside of a restaurant close. For example, a valet.
Right.
You can't pick up your car if you extend it till 2:00 in the morning.
Correct.
If people drove. At a hotel, it's a little different situation because we're 24/7. But in the restaurant world, absolutely, you got to think about things like that.
Right.
Are people still doing, quote, cocktail hours?
Yes and no, definitely. I mean, I really think it depends on the pictures. Nowadays, when it comes to the wedding, on the wedding side of it, I'm seeing a lot more cocktail hours when there is pictures involved and the couple is going on like a photo tour and really want a place for their guests to gather. And I think that's a wonderful use of time to do some past hors d'oeuvres, some drinks, and really allow the guests to mingle and kind of meet and greet each other and, really kind of catch up. So I think it's a wonderful thing if that's the factor. Some guests want to go right into the party and right into dinner service or, whatever that meal service looks like.
Are you seeing signature cocktails at your events?
All the time, yes. And even personally, I as well am getting married in 3 years, and yes, I'm doing a signature cocktail.
Awesome.
They're very, very popular.
Oh, cool!
Yes.
And how does one create a signature? Is it how are you and your fiance? What made you decide? Like, what's your signature cocktail? Do you know already, or
I do a Pinot Grigio with lemonade. We both love lemonade, and we both love wine. So we found this summer type of drink. So cool. Again, I cannot stress enough. Make your wedding all about what's unique to the two of you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Maggiano's, I saw recently you guys are starting to do a little bit of the signature cocktails too.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's such a great way and such a small detail to be able to personalize your wedding.
Yes.
And like you were saying, what's important to you. And maybe it's something, and I know for my wedding we did too, and it was what my husband liked. It was his kind of drink. We even have a guest coming up that wants to tray pass Bud Lights upon arrival because the groom is a Bud Light drinker, and that's what everybody knows him as. And you know what? I think that's awesome. Really make a special detail that's special to you stand out in your wedding. But we also do a lot of research when it comes to the bride. Sometimes she wants us to have the color of the cocktail match her color scheme or their color scheme. And I think that's a great way to do it. And you know what? Google's the most amazing thing in the world. You Google pink cocktail, yellow cocktail, orange cocktail, whatever that is, and then really start to find some ingredients that you're like, hey, that sounds really good. And over at Maggiano's, a lot of times what we'll do is we'll give our bartender a list of, hey, these 4 pink cocktails are, what we're thinking. And then we take a picture of it and send it to the bride. We get to taste test it.
Yes. Nice. It's the best part of our job.
It's the hard part of the gig.
Party time all the time at their place. Wow.
It's the hard part of the gig, definitely. But, we'll be honest. And, I think that's another thing is, be open to a little bit of feedback. If, the drink isn't that great or maybe it's a little too strong, I'm going to let you know, and that's just my personal feedback. And then maybe if you have a moment, go to the grocery store, make that cocktail yourself, and let us know what you think. And then really, if you love it, stick with it. And I think that's a great thing.
Yes.
Now, how do catering or venues, how do you guys charge? So I'm going to go 101 on you. Like how do you guys charge? Do you charge by person, by plate? How does that all work? Who wants to attack that beast first?
I'll go ahead.
Go for it.
I'm going to say yes, yes, and yes.
Thank you.
We have all different types of packages, really, from your cocktail reception, just short and sweet, and everybody's going to go somewhere else that evening, to full sit-down buffet dinners, receptions, plated dinners. We have so many different offerings. So based on what package they pick, we would go from there. So almost like an a la carte after that.
Now, I know at Maggiano's you serve family style. That's your thing. That's
our thing.
That's your thing. And
thing.
It's a thing. And it's a good thing. So you don't get that. Although I have been to Maggiano's. I've seen a few buffets in there, but generally your service is more family.
Yeah, definitely more family style where we're at. The how much is such a hard question to answer, I think, initially, because it really depends on what you are looking to include, right? So it could be how much is it could be just food only, or how much is it could include food and a full open bar, or, maybe it's cocktail reception, dinner, and open bar. So it all depends on what you're looking to include for your guests. So, it's generally a per person pricing, at my venue, in particular, really depending on what you want included. But I think it's also a very big kind of thing. And I'm pretty sure over at the hotels as well, you have to spend a certain food and beverage minimum.
Yes.
So really understanding what your food and beverage minimum is, I think, is a big thing when it comes to the venue itself, especially if it's a venue that does do the food.
So what exactly does food and beverage minimum mean to the layman? What does that mean?
The minimum amount of dollar that you need to spend, usually prior to tax and gratuity or service charge, to fulfill your contract.
Okay. Got it. So everything is on a contract. And
that is correct.
You ladies recommend everything in writing.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Why is it so important to have everything in writing?
Oh, there's going to be that one time.
Right.
And you don't want to be that one time.
And you want to know what you're getting. I mean,
you want to know, I think the contract can seem intimidating, but at the end of the day, we all shake hands and we all understand what's going on in the beginning and early on in the process. And I think it gives the couple a sense of security that there is a contract, that we are going to fulfill what we've promised, as well as the other way around. Especially with venues, the moment you sign the contract, we are turning away so much business for your particular day. And, same with the vendors. If you want the CEO of fun at your place, you got to guarantee it, because she's in high demand, and venues are the same way. And the moment you are booked, and that's, going back to when do you book right away, because as soon as you do, we start turning away all other business. And unfortunately, they can't have, this other couple cannot have your space because you are on a contract.
Absolutely. And there obviously are penalties for canceling, because we had a guy ask, again, I had the same client ask me today, well, what if I decided to cancel? Can I get my money back? And I had to tell him, no, I can't refund your money back. I mean, like you said just now, Sabrina, you did a great job. We turn away a lot of business to be there. And even though we could try to rebook the business, there's no guarantees.
Right.
I mean, we've turned a lot of people down on that day. Plus, people could, I mean, I don't want to think bad of people, but somebody could say, well, I put my money down here, but I can go over across the street and have it cheaper. So I'll just get my money back from them. And it's just bad business.
It's bad business, and it's not worth anybody's time. It's not worth the couple to then, have to fight that back. It's not worth, us really, then we're left a little empty-handed. And I think that's a great, thing is really understanding the deposits and what the cancellation fees are when you are booking a venue is so important.
Right.
Because it could be a full amount, it could be a half amount, it could be a quarter of amount, it doesn't really matter. But, I think the sense of security and the sense of really understanding that and really understanding why a deposit is put in place, and that's the huge thing, right? It's because we start turning away business, and that place is set for you.
So in a wedding package, in a perfect world, you guys being my experts over here, what should a bride and groom put into their wedding package when it comes to food? What should they be responsible for, like feeding their guests, or what do you recommend?
I don't know if it's required would be the word I would use, but at least what is important to the couple. Again, going back to I've had this many a times where it's just a 1-hour cocktail reception.
Sure.
That was what was important to them, is just finger foods. There's other couples that I've worked with that was important to them is a full sit-down meal. So again, catering every package to every couple.
No, I agree. What about children's meals, Sabrina? What's your feelings on if you're having kids at your but your venue is different, because I guess family style, there is no quote, right? Children's meal?
No, there doesn't have to be, which I think is a cool thing, and there can be. And I think when it's speaking on behalf of restaurants, it's really easy to accommodate children's meals. It's really easy to accommodate allergies. It's really easy to accommodate, certain dietary restrictions when it comes to most things. And being in the restaurant world is a little bit differently, just because we are so used to it on a daily basis. Dealing with guests just coming in through the door.
Sure.
Yes. And the hotel would be almost the opposite, where we are scheduled accordingly to the contracts. We are not a restaurant.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So they would order you would
Correct.
give them a children's option.
Yes, that's correct.
Absolutely. Now, a lot of couples, we know this word BEO, but for the general couple, BEO stands for
Banquet Event Order Form.
Okay. And what is a banquet event order form in layman's terms?
Listing all the details of your event.
Okay. And that goes so do couples see BEOs?
Yeah. So I love to tell my couples, once we receive your menu, once we receive your beverage selection, even when we go down to the setup, please tell me what's important to you. The information, if there's a vendor that we should list and who you've used, because really this is us on paper. It's our planning process. It's been the whole 6 months or a year or whatever, the planning process has looked like for the particular couple, with ourselves as the planner, turning it over to then the director of the evening. In my particular world, it happens to be a captain. So really making sure that banquet event order form is completely correct, I think is such a great way of really having also a sense of security that everything I've planned for and all my efforts, as a bride has and as a couple has really been paid attention to, listened to, and is on there. And, essentially then it's turned over to the captain, and you have a flawless evening.
Yep, correct. If it's not on the banquet event order form, it could get missed. So you want to make sure everything is spelled out correctly.
So your couples, do they sign off?
They do sign off on it, and more than happy to always walk them through it, because it is something that's new. We see it in the industry every day, so we know what we're reading. But we really want to take that time with each couple and make sure they understand what they're signing.
Mm-hmm. I think a surprising thing would be to understand where the banquet event order form goes. So one side goes to the kitchen, one side goes to the beverage director, who's then ordering all the alcohol for their event. One goes to the setup crew that really sees, okay, and they want 8 rounds of 8, or even something to our captain where, hey, this particular cake is or this particular place is where the cake's coming from. At 5:00, we'll come 5:15. If we don't see a cake, we're on the phone and, hey, where's our cake? And it's really a great
tool.
It's a tool. You got it. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Do your banquet managers, a lot of facilities say, oh, we have an in-house wedding coordinator. Are you guys the coordinators, or do people bring in coordinators? How's that all work, like with the facility and coordinators that you guys can speak of?
I won't say I would be more so. I have worked with wedding coordinators before. I know you and I have worked with wedding coordinators before. It really depends on their budget, whether or not they want to hire one specifically.
Are you responsible for then? Are you the person that dresses the tables? Are you responsible for putting out tchotchkes on tables?
Yes and no. It really depends. If they've hired a decor company, then I would work with them. If it's a smaller scale wedding, I would do it all.
So it's basically something you need to ask. Correct?
Yeah, and I think, on our side, in the restaurant world, unofficially we're a wedding coordinator, but we're not really a wedding coordinator, but we are really a wedding coordinator, but we're not really a wedding coordinator.
Kind of like me. Yeah, I'm almost the same thing.
Exactly.
People, same thing with me. I like to say that I am, but I'm really not. But then I'm the director.
Right.
Because I'm the person there who's kind of directing the flow of the evening.
Yes.
Right. So I'm always, the DJ, a good DJ, a good DJ, a good DJ, a good MC. They're the person that kind of works with the captains.
Correct. And for the timing of the entire evening.
Right. And it's very, very, very important that everybody play nice in the sandbox together.
Yes,
don't you agree?
Yes. Yep. And I think understanding that we're not necessarily wedding coordinators is a huge thing as well. We are definitely there as a professional to help you as much as we can, but not necessarily a wedding coordinator, I think.
Correct. We don't deal with the ceremony aspect of it. So that's why I agree with we are, but we're not.
Yeah.
What if a vendor is not, quote, on your preferred vendor list? Does that mean like, oh my God, I can't bring this person in? Should people be worried that this person isn't there? What are your feelings on that?
Well, I think they should always check with the venue first. That's definitely the first thing. And then if it's okay to bring someone outside of their preferred vendors, then I'm sure each hotel or venue has their procedures in place. So you want to make sure that everybody, like you say, plays nice in the sandbox.
Right.
For me, I'm a big, there's a reason for the preferred vendor list. It's because it's people we know, love, trust, do an amazing job.
Yes.
So I think it becomes a beautiful marriage when, the guest ends up going with someone on the preferred vendor list, because it flows so nicely. I don't have any problem with an outside vendor. Like you were saying, definitely kind of check in with us and let us know if that's okay. We're pretty flexible at our particular venue. So, if you want to use any other vendor, you're more than welcome to. But trust us really when it comes to a recommendation, because most of us, like you and I, Jody, we've been working together 10 years.
Yeah. I did your wedding.
You did my wedding.
I did her wedding.
You rocked my wedding.
Okay. Thank you.
But it's true, really. I know that you'll be there on time. There's no questions. You provide me a beautiful
schedule.
A beautiful timeline, a couple days beforehand, and there's no question. And sometimes, I can't speak on a specific vendor if it comes to, you going outside of, our preferred vendor list. And at times we don't know, right? And your guest really think it's all one kit and caboodle. Right?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
So that can sometimes be the hard thing,
Sure.
If it's a preferred cake that we've never worked before and the cake isn't amazing, well, your guest doesn't know that the cake didn't come from Maggiano's or didn't come from, a place, or maybe they think it's a place that we recommended and it might not necessarily be true. So, I'm not a huge fan of it, but also I want to provide flexibility for the guests.
And I think it's important that if somebody does decide not to go with a preferred partner, that whoever they go with, reach out to the catering team and introduce themselves. Maybe stop by the venue, get a feel.
Lay of the land, especially.
Because how many times have you guys worked with somebody who's a non-preferred partner, and they don't know where to park the car? They're stuck. They're late. I can't get the elevator. What do you mean you don't have an extension cord for me? I need a table. Yeah, it's just so take it from the ladies. There's a reason why things are done the way they are,
and it's a reason so much simpler than probably a guest thinks. It's really because we trust these other vendors. No other reasoning behind it, really.
Well, you hit the nail on the head, because the average guest doesn't know. It's like when they ask for entertainment or something to come in the middle of a party.
Right.
Doesn't that drive you crazy? Like, well, we're going to eat dinner for 2 hours, and then, the DJ will come in 2 hours. Like, they don't understand. They think that person is late. So when it comes to the food and things like that, I'm sure that, like you mentioned, wedding cake, do wedding cakes normally, are they normally provided by you or by the facilities, or do people bring in their own cakes?
Us, it would be
at a hotel
by the facility.
Okay,
correct.
So it's
none would be allowed. From outside.
And at yours,
totally outside, and it's all of our desserts are made fresh in house, but we don't have a cake designer. And I say, cake is the new wine. It gets from simple to really, really complex and really, really beautiful. Yes. So go to a specialist is what, the bakeries are now, wedding cake specialist.
Are you seeing that a lot of people are not having wedding cakes at weddings anymore? Are they still, do couples still do a traditional wedding cake?
I would say about 60%, 40%. 60% doing them, 40% really changing it up.
And what are they doing instead?
Cupcakes, sweet tables, not doing one. Mm-hmm. So really, we're seeing everything.
You mentioned amazing desserts.
Yes. We get a little bit of everything. Same like you. Big, beautiful, wow cakes. And I think that's, can be important to some guests. And then totally forgoing it and just doing like a small little tier to cut into. Mm-hmm. Sweet tables. Oh my gosh, I love who doesn't love a sweet table, right? And the cupcakes. And I think it's really kind of, and I think especially here in Vegas, we get that whole question of what's normal, what do guests typically do. And that's the cool thing I think about where we are today in our world is anything is typical. Anything is normal. Yes. Mm-hmm. Do what you want. And, how you keep going back to do what's personal and special to you. Yeah. And I think that's the big one. So if you're all about wedding cakes, go for a wedding cake.
Go for it. Absolutely.
If you could care less for a wedding cake, then go for that big, beautiful sweet table.
I agree.
Yep.
I agree. What is a cake cutting fee? I would think that if I'm getting my cake from you guys,
it's
from the
usually
hotel,
included in their package. I would think it was maybe more so for restaurants.
Mm-hmm. Well, at our particular venue, we don't do a cake cutting fee.
What is a cake cutting fee?
Okay, so a cake cutting fee is going to be if you use an outside vendor and you bring in your cake, we will take it in the back, cut it, plate it, and serve it to your guest. There is a fee for that. I think a lot of times it's places that can offer a cake and you decide to forgo their cake and go with a different cake. That's kind of how they make up the revenue or the funds lost from that. So they charge this cake cutting fee. But some places do, some places don't. It really depends. And, and that's a important thing to ask in the planning process. If you're thinking about bringing an outside cake, what does that look like? Because that could be a surprise charge for you. You know, if you have 100 guests and it's $2 per person, you're attacking on 200 plus your service charge plus your tax and all that stuff. You know, it really can add up, or
Very
can
quickly.
be a hidden cost. You know, in some places.
What about? Are you still seeing people doing champagne for toasts, or are they just going glass in hand?
Glass in hand.
Glass in hand, yeah.
Glass
I
in
don't. I mean, I'm a champagne drinker, so for sure, give me a glass. But but I think, you know, a
More
lot
often
of
not,
more
people
often,
aren't.
you know, and it's somewhat of a. I think if you're going for more of a traditional feel, I think it's a great thing and it's a great addition. But if you're going for something, you know, that it's just important to do a toast, toast in hand. Your guests more than likely already have a drink in hand, you know, whatever that may look like, water, soda, cocktail, beer, wine, it doesn't matter.
I agree. I think that's a great way of cutting a cost.
Correct.
You know, if you're on a tight budget.
Splurge somewhere else.
Yeah. Whether it's, you know, because everybody, you know, we had this conversation, you know, certain things are important to certain, couples.
Right.
Photography could be super important to somebody, so they're going to spend their money on photos. Entertainment could be super important to somebody, so they'll spend more money on their entertainment.
Yes.
A video, that you know, that brings me up. I hit the word video. Do you guys see videos anymore? Are you seeing them?
No, I'm not seeing them, but the ones that there are out there nowadays, the cinematography, wow, like it's so amazing, and you know. Definitely, if that's important, it's such a great
I think
way
everybody,
to keep your money or to keep.
And I think with technology nowadays, everybody has their phone, their cell phone, so somebody's recording it. So those that are on a budget kind of go away from it. You see it every so often, but not as much as you
not
used
like we
to.
did, right?
Correct.
Back in the day when we all kind of...
It was part of our photo and video,
everybody had a video and everybody had a photographer, and everybody still does photography.
Right.
But it's just something, you know, I'm going to do a video show and we'll kind of address that. But I think definitely if you can afford something, you should do something.
Right.
You should do something because the day really does. I mean, you girls agree, right? The day just flies by so fast.
It does.
I mean, and I bet you get this question comes up a lot at your venues. So what do you do with the leftover food?
Oh, yes.
What do you do with the leftover food?
I would say
we eat it.
usually,
The vendors go in the back and they just pay out.
No, you know, for us at our particular venue, because it is family style, and usually, you know, I always say nobody ever leaves Maggiano's hungry. We do really good sized portions, right? So I think it's a great thing actually in the planning process to discuss what do you want to do with your leftovers. Do you want guests to box it up and take it with them, you know, to go back to their hotel room? Maybe everybody's going drinking. You want them to have like that midnight snack. Or I have actually had quite a few guests say if you can pack it up in larger pans because we're hosting a get together tomorrow and we'll just use the leftovers for that. That, believe it or not, that's been happening a little bit more often. So, yeah, let us know what you want us to do with the leftovers.
That's the restaurant side.
That's the restaurant side.
The restaurant family style side.
And then there's some guests that say it's, you know, we're going out drinking or, you know, whatever afterwards. We don't want to deal with anything, so just toss it and toss it.
And we do end up using the food that has been discarded. Our company has a really great program that we use to compost and recycle it. So it is not gone to waste, but we do not reuse, nor do we pack up or...
Good. Yeah, I know.
Or give it away to...
give it away. Hey, there's a homeless guy in the back of the parking lot at Caesars.
No.
Just bring him a bag. You know, no, it doesn't.
No.
You know, absolutely. Yeah. Are people leaving and I'm going to wrap up in a second. Are people leaving, this is because I just got to thinking about this, the cake toppers. Are people actually taking their wedding cake toppers back home with them? I mean, we're destination, so I don't know. But
I don't see it that often.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
very slim to none.
I do.
I tell them to take it. I mean, you can't get it on the plane, of course.
Right.
Again, we're a destination, but I tell them to take it. I mean, if you're local, if you're getting married in the town that you live in, I'd totally do it. Yeah, but if you're a destination couple, I mean, just take a picture of it and have some bake. Or if it's that important for you to eat wedding cake on your anniversary, then just go order one.
Yeah.
But I think it's cool to have in your room.
Yeah.
Like, you said, like you get drunk and it's 4 a.m. You're like, cake. I'm starving. Get a fork. Pat, there's some wedding cake.
Yeah. You know what? My personal feeling is you order it, eat it.
Yeah. Eat it.
Serve it, cut it, plate it, do away with it. And like you said, maybe go to a different bakery a year later and get it.
And get a copy, like get a replica.
Yeah,
did you and Matt eat your wedding, like when you had your 1-year anniversary, did you go into the freezer? And
No, not
and yours
at all.
is coming up. So we got, she's
not
like,
happening.
We didn't. But I've heard from people who have done it and they said, ugh, so I don't know.
No.
Yeah. No.
Take me out to dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Get me a bottle of wine. I'm
there
happy.
you go.
So we're getting toward the end of the show, and you guys have been phenomenal. I mean, there's so much more we can touch base on, and
really,
I feel that we can bring you guys back, and maybe even our listeners will come back and give us some questions that they want to have answered. I think that'd be kind of fun too. So before we kind of wrap this all up, I always end the show with a takeaway. So if what's that one big takeaway that you want to share with our couples that are listening based on your experience in the world of catering and your venue? So do you want to go first?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Carla's going to go first.
Have fun and definitely be you. Be unique in your own sense of what's important to you, the couple. This is your day. Enjoy it. Do whatever it is that makes you two happy.
Mm-hmm. That's great advice. That's great. Because have you ever had the wedding police ever show up at your venues? Have they arrested anybody for not tossing the bouquet?
Right.
Or gosh, you didn't have champagne?
Yes.
Hey.
Yes, exactly.
No, they don't show up. You can do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and just to add to that really quick is, even when you're thinking of your menu, get what you like. Right. There's no way to really kind of mentally process what does 100 people like. Get what you like and everything else will fall into place. Let's see, my one takeaway, I don't know, there's so much. I mean, and when you're talking, picking your venue, just figure out what's important to you and make it important. And really when you're figuring out how much things cost, well, what does that look like for you? What do you want included for your guests? What kind of experience do you want them to have? What fits within your budget? Mm-hmm. It's not just about a dollar amount. It's really kind of all encompassing of what does that dollar amount need to entail to make it right for you, if that makes sense.
No, it makes total sense. Like we talked about your priorities, what's really important for you,
right. I mean, I think there's so many times where $100 can mean just food, or $100 can mean a full bar, food, everything. Yep. I mean, what does the dollar amount really, really look like? I think that's one thing that you want to do in your early stages of planning process is really determine that. What do I want included?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, girls. Thank you so much. Carla, how does one find you or follow you? I mean, you represent a big company there. There are 8 hotels. So how does one find you or follow your property?
Definitely Instagram is probably one of the better ways, I would believe, just because it's more visually appealing and you can really take away things and show that to your person, whoever your catering person is. So I'd say Instagram.
Okay. And how do they find you on Instagram? Are you personal, or you want to keep it business? What do you want to give them?
I have a personal one, but I have to look it up. I don't even know my name anymore.
But they can always follow Caesars.
Correct. Caesars, the specific venue that they're most interested in.
Okay, perfect. Mm-hmm. And if somebody wants to reach you, you are at the Rio.
Correct.
Perfect. So you can reach Carla Della Torre at the Rio Hotel. So if you have any questions for Carla, I'm sure she'd love to answer.
Absolutely.
Good. Awesome. And then Sabrina, how could they find you guys on social media?
Well, I think there's so many avenues, and I think Maggiano's as a company does a really wonderful job with a lot of the social media. So you could really, my first stop would always be go to the website. The website's great. And from any of our locations, you can really take a virtual tour of each restaurant. So, Maggianos.com. But there's also Instagram, Maggiano's. Pinterest, I think, is my new favorite one to find Maggiano's and Maggiano weddings. So Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, Maggiano's Las Vegas.
And they could find you, Sabrina Ciccelli. Okay, over at in the Las Vegas office. How many Maggianos are you guys now?
We are 40.
Wow.
8.
Wow.
45, 6, 7, or 8.
Okay, so wow. They're opening up as we speak. There's one opening up right now. So definitely head over to their website and you can find them there. Of course, you can find me, Jody Harris, CEO of Fun. You can find me here at Sight and Sound Events. I'm also on Twitter, Jody Harris, Instagram. I do it all. Pinterest, Sight and Sound Events. So I hope you guys enjoyed this great show. Please tell a friend, write a review, give us a rating. We'd love that. It really helps out. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to Weddings Done Right Radio, the how-to for the I do. I thank my guests for coming out and spending their evening with me and all of you. And always remember to make your event fun-tastic. Thanks.